Hello again, it's Lock Noob and you're watching my side channel Side Noob, and you might have seen my review on these Tryout keys 48-piece set from AliExpress, and these are for your classic American open keyway 5-pin locks, Schley, Quickset, Master Lock, etc, etc. Now, they have worked with some success on some locks, but I have one lock in particular which for no apparent reason I can't get these Tryout keys to work with. But there's no reason why they shouldn't. I mean, that isn't an extreme bitting. There's plenty of keys here which are very similar to this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try and find one which is the most similar and try that, and then go through each key one by one to see how long it takes to cycle through all the keys, as if you were approaching a lock for the first time using these, and also to see whether whether we could just get successful. I mean, just because it didn't work out when I was doing the filming before doesn't mean it can't work out this time. That is the way of things. So yeah, let's take the key off this and see if I can't find a bit of a match and see if that works, and if it doesn't, then we'll cycle through. So we'll learn two things: whether these keys can get you into just a random lock like this one, and whether a close bitting matchup could work if you knew the key. Not that you need the Tryout keys if you did know the key, but it's an experiment. Just bear with me on this. So now we wouldn't have the key normally, would we? But here is the key, and we can see it sort of is relatively level, maybe a bit down on pin 2 and very low on pin 5. So what I'd do is I would try to look for something which had a lower bitting on pin 5 but was relatively flat across the board. Other than that, and that won't take too long. The only noticeable thing about this particular bitting is that lower, so that could be a contender. I'll hold that one. That lower bitting on the tip. Just trying to find something which looks about right. Maybe that one as well. So we've got those two, and okay, so those two, for example, that's sort of the way that I would check through, just to see whether I had something close if I had the key. Just for this experiment, it's not trying to replicate how you'd use these keys. We'll do that in a second, as I said. So just having a look here, it's, do you know what, vaguely feasible, right? You know, it's a bit high on pin 2, but if we don't try, we won't know. And this one is a bit low on pin 1, in fact too low. In fact, I think this one is the most likely from this set. Let's have a quick look on this set and see if there's anything which looks like it could, maybe that one, be a close enough fit, just to see whether this set of keys could work in the best case scenario. So I think that one, anything else, maybe that one. We'll just compare it to the key and see what we get to. Those two definitely out. Those ones won't work. Definitely not that. Well, they might work, but they're not very similar. And then that one. So I've got basically 4 keys here, 5 keys I think, which could be a close enough fit. So anything that's like way off, we'll just ditch. So this one is actually looking surprisingly good, don't you think? So this is number 4. So I've got to remember this. So 4. I've dumped a load of keys. Let's just try. So 4. No. And 23. So 4 and 23 I think are pretty close. I just want to have a few keys which are similar enough to the bitting, okay? But we'll go through all of them in turn anyway. So first off, does the actual key work? Yeah, it works fine. So let's try this one. I'll show you what it's like. It's a little bit high in places, but otherwise not too bad a fit. So we'll give it a... We'll angle it up a bit. We'll do some oscillations. You might see the camera shake. Apologies for that. Can we get an open? You'd expect it to, wouldn't you? But no. Okay, let's try 4, then 23. I'll remember 23. So this is 4. Maybe a bit too dissimilar. We'll try it. We'll try it anyway. You never know, right? No. And let's try 23. Now we're going to go through every key in turn just to see how effective these would be in a lock with a pretty average bitting, has to be said. And that's 23, so let's just compare that. And that's pretty close, I have to say. All things considered, that might not be too bad. We'll see. We'll see. We're drawing it a little bit as well, because it's not a perfect alignment. Good rock. But not getting anywhere, I'm afraid. So those were pretty alike keys, but maybe the tolerances in this lock are so good, I don't know. But we haven't really got anywhere. So let's just start on key 1 and go all the way forwards. So I admit this might not be very interesting to everybody, but it's one of those kind of side channel experiments which is just worth doing to show people what these are like in sort of real life. And this is exactly how I did the test on the other locks where I didn't have the keys, but we got opens. So they definitely work. But clearly, not always. I wonder how many of you will actually watch this to the end. Just out of curiosity as to whether we might get an open just randomly on one of these tryout keys. As unlikely as it is, some of these bittings are, we know, are just way off. But this is how I would probably attempt this if I didn't know what the lock was. So this is as real as it gets, and as real time as it gets. As boring as it is. Some of these I will spend less time on because the bitting is just so far away from the other key that it's deeply unlikely to work. But we'll try them just in case there's some fluke of bitting, which means we'll get that open. So something like this, for example, could easily work if it just happened to lift the pins to the right height. I'm trying to lift the front, lift the back, withdraw it slightly, all sorts of wriggling and jiggling. As my time with these keys has shown, angling back, lifting up, turning, withdrawing slightly, a light sort of raking back and forth, oscillating, and then stop seems to sort of work for me, or some variant therein. some of these bittings are so far away from that key, they just couldn't work, like physically couldn't work, but you know. We'll get there. 15. This one is a very extreme bitting, and I couldn't expect that to work at all reasonably. But yeah, this is exactly how I went about finding the key that worked for the other locks I didn't have keys for. So that's why I know that this is a sort of a good technique, and that the keys actually do work when, you know, in a lot of locks. They just don't seem to work in all the locks. But then what tool does? You know, got to be a bit fair in that regard. And I suppose that realistically, this isn't going to take too long to get through all these keys. And you could say, well, there's no point in me really doing this, but for completion, I'll give her a little wriggle. You could say, is this a fair test? You know, I'd say reasonably fair. In the end, how long would you practically spend wriggling and jiggling these locks? You know, in real life, if you're going to use them, if you're helping somebody with a lockout as a locksmith, you're not going to spend more than a few seconds, are you? And we could spend ages doing this, but it's probably very boring for most people anyway, this video. So, and that's a whole set of keys here gone through. Do you know what? I would genuinely love it if we manage to fluke and open, because I've not managed to on this lock as yet in my testing. So let's go back to 48. So there you go, 25, and work our way forwards. So 24 keys to go, sorry. Am I a little bit bored of doing this? Yeah, a little. I just thought that this would be, like I said, really good side channel content, because for those people that are curious as to how these really perform, this might answer some of your questions about that. Then again, it not working on one particular lock isn't damning. It just sort of demonstrates that it's not a magic key. I mean, magic keys. I mean, bunch of tryout keys. It's not reasonable to expect that these could work in every lock. I would be a little bit surprised if I don't get a single open on this lock, or would have been surprised, should I say. I wouldn't be surprised now, because I've tried it out a few times and I just haven't got an open on this. Genuinely a bit surprised by that, considering that this bitting isn't extreme and this lock core is nothing to shout about at all. It's a surprisingly easy pick. I think I picked this recently on a video. Some of you have probably already been a bit sick through the camera shake on this. Already at key 33. And no open. .34. On to key 35. Come on. It'd be great to get an open out of this. 36 now. Only got to get to key 48. There's no way that this bitting will work. It's so extreme compared to the actual bitting of the real key. So this is 38. And now we're in the last 10 keys So if it's going to open, now is the time for it to do its thing, frankly. Key 42. $43, almost down to the last 5. $44. I think I felt something on this one, that's why I'm giving it a bit more time. Maybe it's just wishful thinking. Let's just check that out. Is that similar? Not really, but I think it's similar enough that I was feeling something setting. What was this? 44, but clearly it's just not quite doing it. I'll give it a few more seconds on this one, just because it seemed to. Do you know when you feel when you're picking that something's close or thereabouts? It could just be that I fluke it just by jiggling it right. It could be that I just can't. I'd like it to, but I don't think it's going to go, everybody. No. Running out of keys now. $46. $47. There's no way these will open now, is it? And last but not least, key 48. Deeply unlikely to work, but you never know until you try it. Nope. Try the normal key, works fine. So yeah, it goes to show that, you know, sometimes you just get an open, it's really fast. You get lucky, you hit key number 3, for example, and it just pops your lock open. Sometimes you can try all 48 and get nowhere. Could I spend more time cycling through? Yes. Might I get a lucky open? Maybe. Is it likely? Probably not. But it just goes to show that a bitting, not even an extreme one like this, all 48 keys, they didn't get me an open. And they haven't got me an open the 2 times before this that I've tried either. So either I'm doing something wrong compared to the other locks, but I think that's unlikely since they worked, or it just shows that sometimes you just don't get lucky even with 48 tryout keys. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. If you did, leave a like. If you've got comments about this or the way I tested it or anything at all about the product, then please leave me a comment below. I'll read them all and reply to as many as I can. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to this side channel and my main channel. If you've not done so already, it really helps both my channels out. And of course, I'll see you all next time.